In this presentation, the fixation of a short oblique metacarpal fracture will be demonstrated using a 2.0 mm lag screw and a 2.0 mm variable angle adaption plate. Upon completion of this exercise, you should be able to describe the surgical approach used for a short oblique metacarpal fracture and perform the fracture fixation using a 2.0 mm lag screw and a 2.0 mm variable angle adaption plate. This approach is indicated for use with short oblique metacarpal fractures with a fracture length that only allows for the insertion of a single lag screw. The patient is positioned supine on the operating table with the arm placed on an arm table at the level of the shoulder joint. The use of a tourniquet is strongly recommended. A fluoroscope is positioned opposite the surgeon to allow intraoperative radiological examination. The approach to the third and fourth metacarpals is made through a dorsal longitudinal skin incision between these two bones. The skin incision is marked on the model. The foam cover is dissected longitudinally, ulnar to the third metacarpal. After the foam cover has been retracted with blunt hooks, the extensor apparatus is exposed. The junctura tendinum is incised and the extensor tendons are retracted with the hooks. The fracture is exposed with retractors. The fracture is visualized by detaching the interosseous musculature subperiosteally. The required instruments are the self-retaining star drive screwdriver, the reduction forceps, the 2.0 1.5 double drill sleeve, the 1.5 mm drill bit, the 2.0 mm drill bit, the countersink for 1.5 mm and 2.0 mm screws, the depth gauge, the plate holder, and the plate holding forceps. After reduction, the fracture is stabilized with the reduction forceps. A 2.0 mm lag screw can now be inserted from the distal ulnar side of the metacarpal, running in a proximal radial direction. Using the small fragment technique, the thread hole is made through both cortices with a 1.5 mm drill sleeve and 1.5 mm drill bit. The drill sleeve is rotated and a 2.0 mm glide hole is drilled through the neocortex with the 2.0 mm drill bit. The drill sleeve is removed and the neocortex is recessed with the countersink to accept the screw head. Care is taken to create a recess for the screw head, but not to drill through the whole cortex. The required screw length is measured with the depth gauge. The 2.0 mm self-tapping screw is inserted. This screw will provide compression for the fracture. The 2.0 adaption plate, trimmed to 5 holes, is placed dorsally on the metacarpal so that 2 holes lie proximal and 2 holes distal to the fracture. The plate is fixed onto the metacarpal with the plate holding forceps. The 1.5 mm universal drill sleeve has to be firmly inserted into the most distal hole of the plate so that it is in a neutral position. A 1.5 mm hole is drilled through both cortices. With the plate in position, the screw length can be determined with the depth gauge. The first 2.0 mm standard screw is inserted. The plate must be aligned with the axis of the bone. A second standard screw is inserted in a neutral position through the most proximal hole of the plate. To complete the fixation, neutrally positioned standard screws are inserted into the two plate holes adjacent to the fracture. It must be confirmed that all the screws, including the free lag screw, are seated firmly. You should now be able to describe the surgical approach used for a short oblique metacarpal fracture, and perform the fracture fixation using a 2.0 mm lag screw and a 2.0 mm variable angle adaption plate.